Reeves. I'm the Curricular and Enrollment Coordinator with the Office of the Registrar, and thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules to come to our Spring 2018 event. Hopefully we have some exciting news and updates for you. Here's our agenda for the day, and thank you so much to everybody that submitted agenda topic items. If something you submitted didn't make the list, either myself or a member of our Curricular Services team would be happy to answer any individual department questions you might have, as always. But these are the topics that we are going to cover, starting with Class Action Builder. So we know it's been a while since you've had an update about class, or CSB, sorry, we've got a couple different acronyms going around the office with this. But we're hoping to give you an idea of kind of what's been going on over the course of the last year, knowing that for a lot of you, training with the tool will start next week. So a year ago at this event, we showed you this slide with our timeline that started about a year ago in April when we had our initial team meeting with the vendor to talk about what we were hoping for with the product, to start testing it, ideally with the initial goal of training for October of 2017. Well, life happens. This is one of my favorite graphics. This used to hang in my former supervisor's office, and we'd always have a good laugh over it anytime things weren't quite going our way. Even the best laid plans sometimes hits snafus, or you might have to, according to this, go across a lake, forge a mountain, that sort of thing. So our big obstacle that we had to cross was basically building a connection point to get SIS to talk to Class Action Builder. So that's called the bridge. So we spent a lot of time, and by we I really mean our developers, spent a lot of time getting all the kinks worked out with that bridge and making sure that those two systems were talking to each other as best as we possibly could get them set up. So where are we now, / what have we been up to? So in October 2017, we really took a look at what was going on, what we were hoping for with the software. We decided that it was not ready to release to the general population on campus, but we are very thankful that we had 3 departments that were brave enough to join us in a pilot. So a huge thanks to our friends in business and nursing and SOHI, who started using it to try to build 1186 and 1192 using Class Action Builder. We know things weren't perfect. That bridge had some holes that were missing, so some pieces to the bridge that weren't perfectly aligned. We really appreciated their feedback, basically contributing to what we've been able to make the software today. Also during that time, myself and members of the Curricular Services team started testing on our own. So we logged in as users, we ran test scenarios, we tried to set up classes the way you all would, and we worked with the vendor, we worked with our developer, we tried to work all of the kinks out that we possibly could. We also set up rules and different features of the product to kind of UW-Madison-fy it and make it really relevant to the work that we do here. So again, a huge thanks to the Curricular Services team for their work on this as well. Because as you know, we were still working through the schedule of classes build in SIS as well. So all of that business had to take place while we were doing this additional testing. So then we took feedback from our pilot partners and really took a close look at what rules were working, which ones we needed to add, which ones we needed to alter, if there were any additional features we could work with the vendor to produce, and how to just get it set up the way that we wanted it to be. And what's next? Well, next, training is coming up next week, and I have a slide coming up that will kind of go over. I know that there's been a lot of questions of, do I need to attend this training or do I not? So I'm hoping to clarify that in a few slides, but you're always welcome to reach out to myself or someone else on our team to clarify if that's a training that you need to attend. Then this summer, for those of you that may not have a role where you're actively building in the schedule of classes, but you're curious about what this tool can do, you're interested in some of the data and reporting that it produces, we'll be having some trainings over the summer. Those exact dates are definitely to be determined, but we are hoping to have a couple trainings, probably only an hour or 2 of your time to get an overview of what this software might be able to do to help you in your work as well. We'll also be having some open labs. We will kind of have as many as necessary to help support you through this build process as we transition from mostly SIS to Class Section Builder. And again, I just wanted us to extend a huge thank you to the teams of people that have done all of the testing that has gone into this, and to our developer who is not here as he continues to make improvements on this software and his everyday work as well. He's done a lot of great work for us. So what are we excited about? So a few forums, or the last few forums last year, Will Lipsky shared some demos of the software. So we're not going to repeat those, but those videos are still available online if you're interested in seeing that overview. But these strengths were pulled from feedback that I had during my time testing the software, as well as our Curricular Services team and our testing pilot partners. So what is this software good at and what are we excited about? Well, it's really a more all-in-one scheduling experience. So instead of going from tab to tab or screen to screen in SIS, you have one screen in front of you where you work on your section. So it's really consolidated. Also, the errors and warnings will alert you as you click save. So if there's an issue with your section, you're going to know real time. This will save our team a lot of audits. They will still have audits to do, fear not. They will still have plenty of work to do to ensure that the data is accurate before we publish. But this tool will give you real-time feedback or real-time alerts that say, did you mean to do that? Or don't forget to come back and add this other thing. And those are things that we're really excited about. Hopefully will make your work more efficient in the long term. Also, this will be a little easier to train and have potentially a department backup. Or if there's turnover in your office, any sort of emergency comes up, we can do this training in just a few hours. And the RO will control authorization for this tool as well. So it should be hopefully more smooth and seamless. If someone else from your department needs to have that training, hopefully we can get them trained and using the tool right away. And then there'll be tools to help you make decisions. So one of the things that we'd like to show off is the heat map. So that really shows kind of the overlay of when your classes are being offered and gives you a visual representation of, hey, there's a lot of offerings at this one time. Maybe you try to avoid that and go for a lighter time period. This is also something that when we were at the vendors conference, another school brought this up that really made me think back to my experience working at the business school. So I did not work in curricular services. I worked heavily with accounting students in career services. And one question that we would always have is when can we plan events that will actually get these students to go to these events? And there was one time that I literally went into SIS and I was writing down when the times were for all of the 300 level classes so that we could try to plan an event around them. Well, this visualization tool will actually give you a visual representation, so you won't need as many sticky notes on your desk, hopefully. So that is something that all users will be able to look forward to too. Yes, that's a picture of my cat. I was told that my cat makes everything better, so while we talk about the challenges and the support, you can also enjoy the picture of Vilas in a bow tie. So, some of the challenges that we know are coming. This is a section building tool. So that does mean that you will need to look section by section at your classes. We know that for some of you that will be more time consuming and possibly a little bit clunky, but we are hoping that over time you'll just get used to working in this tool, in this environment, and that will also help you notice issues about a specific section even before you hit save. So we're optimistic that over time this is something everyone will become more accustomed to. Also, the rules are going to be enforced up front. So this was also on the strengths slide, so we're happy about this in that you'll know right away if there's a problem. But this will also be a challenge, especially if there are issues with courses that you aren't aware of, as we know often happens. Or there was some course setup that was done incorrectly in a past term and it's term rolled and now you're becoming aware of it. So that will be a challenge, we know that. But as we continue to clean up catalog data with a lot of your departments, we are hoping that over time, again, this will become less and less of an issue. Also, we know that we've thrown a lot of new at you over the last few years. So between the guide, course proposals, we know that the RO likes new. So we definitely acknowledge that that can be challenging. We appreciate you sticking with us as we trying to implement these tools to hopefully make the future better for everyone involved. So we definitely plan to support you through this. We're not just going to train you and let you loose and hope for the best. So a few things. So the vendor does have help documentation linked to every single page in Class Section Builder. So they provide that resource. It is general information, but if you're wondering how to or how do I do this one thing, the vendor has those resources that are real time right away there. Also, we have training documentation, so we will be giving out a training packet, and I'm sure we will get that on our website as well. So that is another resource that has been customized to UW-Madison. All of our screenshots are listed from UW-Madison, so that will be a little bit more tailored help. Also, the Curricular Services team, we're not going anywhere, and we're happy to help. So myself and the team that I work with, we're always available by phone, by email, and we'll do the best that we can to support you individually too. We also have regular communication with the vendors, so we have a very good relationship with the people that have built this product, and they're really receptive to feedback. I don't know that I've ever worked with a third-party vendor that really takes into consideration what do schools want? What is it that their experience is like? What is the user's experience? So if there is something that you're like, this is great, but it would be great if it could do this, let us know. We would really like to know what your experience is like and if we can do anything to make it better. Technology rarely changes like overnight. It's hard for developers to make things perfect right away, but if they hear from several schools that there's this one thing that everybody wants, hopefully that's enough for them to devote the time and resources to making that improvement. So know that we're in regular communication with them too. Also, we plan to host those open labs, and then we are also happy to do a roadshow. So to go to you, come to your office, come to your department, do a demo for a small group of people or for some individuals if there are specific questions or things you want to talk through. So we hope that by providing this support, we'll have a smooth transition, but we know it'll take time. Changes are hard. And we're also still learning this tool, even though it's been a year. I've spent a lot of time in Class Section Builder, and there are still things I don't know. So we're all in this together. Training. So training is coming up next week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and that training is really intended for folks that are building and maintaining the schedule of classes. So if that's part of your role, we hope you've signed up. There are still slots available. If you didn't get that initial invite, feel free to send me an email and I can absolutely get that to you. For viewers, so for folks that are curious about the tool, they want to view the screen that has the section information on it, but use the reporting and filtering functionalities, we'll be holding those trainings over the summer. So those will be for folks that don't necessarily do the building and maintaining on a day-to-day basis. But like the example that I gave before, where maybe an advisor is curious about this and wants to know more about this class information, there are ways of doing that too. And a lot of people have asked, is my SIS security changing? Is that going away? The answer is things are changing. They won't change right away. We're not flipping one switch on and one switch off come next week. But over time, we do plan to transition everybody to Class Section Builder as much as possible. There are a few pages that you'll still need to use in SIS. So SIS isn't entirely going away, but the training will look different for all of our SIS trainings. They'll be more consolidated, so that information will be kind of more condensed, and hopefully for new users going forward after this big April push, the training will be kind of a 2-in-1. So you'll get both Class Section Builder and SIS training on the same day. That's our plan, at least right now. We'll see what it looks like going forward. If you have questions about which training you should attend, if you should attend training next week, please feel free to reach out to me. Every department should have at least one person trained in Class Section Builder, and I know right now there's probably at least a dozen or so out there that don't have anyone signed up. So if you're wondering if someone signed up for your department or if you should go attend that training, please feel free to email me and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So I'm going to open the floor for questions about Class Section Builder before we move on to the next. Yep.
So in regards to the trainings, are the viewers going to be getting, well, I guess the question is the schedulers going to be getting the same information the viewers are going to get? So would the scheduler need to go to both, or is it
No, schedulers will not need to go to both. The schedulers will be getting the viewer training and then some. Yep.
Can you repeat the question because I wasn't ready?
Yep, sorry, the question was, are the schedulers going to be getting the information the viewers will as well, or will they have to attend both trainings? And the answer to that, as far as we know for now, is that the schedulers will be getting all of that information at once. Yes?
Okay, as long as the back was good.
I'll repeat it.
I'm trying to do my job, actually.
So if I need to access student information when I'm building a section or I'm doing something with it, do I have to toggle between SIS and class section builder, or is there a portal through it?
If you're looking for specific, so the question was if I need to access student information while I'm doing my schedule of classes build, will I need to toggle between class section builder and SIS? The answer is yes. For now, class section builder doesn't contain student specific information, so it contains, general enrollment numbers, but not specific students. Yep. Yes.
Is this gonna make how is this gonna change? Is how the viewer, we're gonna if God forbid couldn't get something to work in class builder, can you go into SIS and schedule stuff still, or is it gonna be certain things can be locked out?
So the question is, if something's not working in class section builder, can you still go into SIS to do it, or are we going to be locked out? The answer initially is that you will still be able to go into SIS, but over time, some pages in SIS will become view only, so you'll be able to see that information but not touch it. That exact date is likely late June, so there will be a little bit of overlap time, but if we need to alter that date for the sake of the user experience, we can do that too. Yes?
Will there be changes to the, let me just put it another way. Will the data warehouse accommodate any new fields that are going to be brought up by this new piece of software?
So all of the fields in the new software link directly to a field in SIS. So the data that the data warehouse is pulling is from SIS. Yep. Yes, Lisa?
Will it still term roll?
Yes, we are still term rolling. That was an easy one. Yep.
I got another question then, because our schedule is so complicated, usually when we have term roles, we just clear out.
Okay.
Are we still going to be able to do that through class builder, or?
We can work with you to try to figure something out. Yep, in the back.
When you said that the student information will be in just class section builder, does that mean student permissions, class permissions will not be in this?
That is correct. Student permissions will still be done in SIS. Yep. So when you attend training, we'll give you essentially it's a list of things that you'll still have to do in SIS. And then as the trainings evolve, we will train users in both tools and what they'll need to know. Okay, if you have any other questions, please feel free to pull me aside after the event is over or shoot me an email. I am going to hand it over now to Claire Hoon with APIR.
Maybe I'll put your picture of your cat back. Calm people down a little bit. So this is meant to be not as technical as Andy just was, so maybe I see Will coming up here. Maybe you guys, if there are technical questions about instructor roles, I think I'm not the right person to answer them. But they asked me to come talk a little bit about the implementation of instructor roles, which is another new thing that's going on. And I think more importantly, sort of why, the whys behind some of it. So why me? I'm certainly not the only consumer of instructor roles. I know a lot of my registrar colleagues are as well, but I think I might be the heaviest user of them and also have a pulse, because most of our users of instructor roles are digital systems that consume it and they can't come talk to you. So I want to give a couple reasons why sort of at this point in our life with SIS, instructor roles become important. So we are doing things digitally, as I just mentioned, and some of our digital, you've heard people maybe talk about student digital ecosystems, so that's sort of an umbrella term that refers to these various software systems that are now interfacing with SIS. So think of Canvas, APHIS, Handshake was announced yesterday. Those kind of things are consuming student and instructor data and provisioning things related to it. So an example would be the APHIS system is going to be used for course evaluations, and it has some built-in sort of security provisions that depend on knowing what role someone is in a class. So you can imagine that a supervisor should be able to see the course evaluations of people they supervise, but that instructors should not see the course evaluations of other instructors, right? So there's an implied role. That's one example. Our accreditor, the Higher Learning Commission, has an expectation that we have qualified instructors, imagine that. But they may be so sure about it that they require that we make a public list of the qualifications of our instructors and also are able to verify that qualified instructors are in our classroom. So that is, the roles can be used as part of that demonstration. It allows us to have more confidence in the data, so when I get to Act 59, which I think is what prompted some of the questions, you'll see that there's lots of anomalies in the data. The same person teaching 50 classes, 16 of which are at the same time, things like that. And maybe that's an extreme example, but you could imagine that the same person can be in different classrooms at the same time if they're a supervising instructor or maybe if they're an auxiliary instructor, but it doesn't really make sense if they're a principal instructor. So the roles would also help us evaluate that and audit a little bit better. And then having roles allows us to use instructor data to respond to external requests and state and federal mandates. So Act 59 is an example of something that was foisted upon us in the most recent budget bill. And the provisions of that are that we needed to report on the teaching hours, a concept that doesn't really exist, of UW faculty and instructional academic staff. So it relied heavily on the instructor data that's in SIS and taking that as a starting list of who our instructors were and then reporting on that with it. So we think that we could do a much finer workload type analysis if we said, Angie was the principal instructor of 3 courses, the supervising instructor of 1 course, and auxiliary instructor on 2 other ones. That's much more a finer grade of information than if, say, Angie was listed as an instructor on 6 classes. It's like without knowing what she did there. So that's none of the technical information, but if you have, I didn't know exactly what people's questions were, so if you had questions about Act 59 or what actually happened to the data, I'd be happy to answer them or explain a little more. It's sort of political, it's sort of technical, and it's sort of boring. Unless you really care about the details, otherwise I will let you move on to the next. Anybody? Yes.
So reporting for classes that are team taught. I'm one of the people who prompted this because I have a lot.
All right, yay.
Because
Okay.
I'm dealing with a bunch of team taught
Yep.
courses. How is that to be reported moving forward?
That's maybe not specific enough of a question. So do you mean team taught at the primary section level?
Yeah. So,
I guess it doesn't,
So,
I mean,
so over the course of one semester, 20 lecturers, we'll say. There's one who's running the whole show, but every other professor is doing
Yeah.
3 lectures a term.
so I think for each, I think we're expected at the institution level to try to find a one-size-fits-all, like here's the absolute definition of, Will's looking at me like, well, you're not going there, are you? Okay.
I can leave the room.
Yeah, no, that's all right. So we think it would be sort of futile to try to define what the fine line between an auxiliary instructor and a principal instructor is. So we think you should have some principles within your own department though. And if you haven't had those kind of discussions, those would be some So your options, from my understanding of the technical, is every section has to have a primary instructor. Right? Someone's gonna stop me.
Principal instructor.
Principal instructor, sorry. Primary section, principal instructor. And if the duties of, you know, the teaching in that section are evenly split, I can't possibly decide which of these people is doing more work or responsible, then they can all be principal instructors. Otherwise, if one of them is sort of the responsible party and everyone else is contributing a bunch, then they can be auxiliary instructors. From an auditing standpoint, that would work. And I think you should just decide what works for your department, how it's structured. If you do a lot of teaching and, you know, almost every section has multiple instructors, you could decide to make one person the primary only on the one that they're primary in and never add auxiliary instructors, but at least one primary is required for every section. Does that help? It's a partial answer.
Actually, I have two questions.
Oh, I should have repeated the question. Okay.
Is there going to be a deadline when these need to be entered?
Is there a deadline when these need to be entered?
Like, we don't
Yes,
have to,
by,
we have to include the instructor when we fill the class.
no,
No.
right? No, yes.
They're even past.
So certainly by the first day of class or by the time classes start, I mean, the RO might have their own deadlines, but from an analytics standpoint, it's a little hard to justify that we're offering classes, students are attending class, but we don't know who the instructors are. So from an analytic perspective, the first day of class.
And will there be a set of guidelines published that we can follow? For example, like, say I've got labs underneath the lecture section, and the labs are run by TAs. Do I need to attach the primary instructor to the lab also, so that they have access to
So
grades?
in that case, the TA is the primary instructor. What you would have to have is a supervising instructor because TAs are, well, it's presumed to be, the primary section instructor is presumed to be the supervisor of the secondary section.
Will this all be published somewhere that we
So
can
you guys,
So
yeah, that's in
we have resources on the RO website. I think we've done a little bit of revamping to our curriculum toolkit, but under, I think it still exists under, I'm looking for Chuck, I think it's still under the Who Teaches section of our website. But I'd be happy to send out that as a separate link when I send out the presentation as well.
I think the real biggest change, and maybe, Will, were you going to add
No, I
something?
wanted to clarify to the first question.
Okay.
When, so as part of, you all probably received an email from Sharon with DIR called like missing instructors. And
Yes.
so we're going to be modifying that or also including your sections which don't have a primary instructor. So you'll see that as part of the DIR call.
Principal instructor.
Principal instructors. But you'll see that as part of our regular communications that we receive from our office.
Okay. So I just wanted to, I saw a question in the back too, so I did see you, but let me just add this while it's in my head. I think the biggest sort of thing to wrap heads around is where this intersects with the qualified instructor policy, and that a TA is a TA teaching a primary section. So that's a lecture or whatever needs to be supervised. And so there needs to be a supervisory instructor, and that's where everyone will have to add a second instructor if you don't already have one at the supervisor level. So that's where the auditing of the qualified instructor requirements are going to happen. But a TA, I mean, I think from my understanding of your example, your regular old lab instructors are just the same as they used to be. And they're the principal instructor of that section. And that's it. That should be no different. One question does it default to principal, or do they actually have to enter? Oh,
So-
Sharon says yes.
So
Okay.
class section builder will default to principal instructor, and
Okay.
so will SIS.
So there you go. So really it's if this person is not functioning as a principal instructor, then you would need to change it. But otherwise it would default. So there's a question in the back.
I had a question about TAs, so I guess it's the opposite of what's been asked.
Mhm.
Do TAs have to be listed as a primary or auxiliary instructor?
I'm not sure I understand the
Like,
question.
I have a kind of neat course where the TA is in teaching the course, but leading discussions, so.
Right, so a TA that's leading a discussion is the responsible person for that discussion. Yes, so they are listed as an instructor.
Okay.
Yeah, just like the lab instructor is listed as an instructor. And I think this should help our friends in the grad school as well, who sometimes try to look at all the people that are getting TA remissions and grad remissions and say, how, you know, where are they today? I saw Ellen.
Yeah. Will the old role fields go away?
Yes.
That
Yes,
makes
so
it
those-
very difficult for people who have tied those roles to evaluation databases. There could be a grad student who was a TA at one time and then became a lecturer. And if they were always primary or, you could, basically you can't distinguish those from each other anymore.
So are you, let me just make sure I understand, are you talking in the data warehouse?
No,
The-
yeah, well, yeah, I'm talking about using data warehouse fields to audit various things, including TA evaluations, lecturer evaluations, and faculty evaluations. And
Right, so I think these are gonna get pulled forward into the data warehouse, just like the role field does now, but it will have different values in it. And that will stay there, that's not,
okay,
like, if it gets written over in, or if it gets cleared out in SIS, that doesn't matter because this has already,
yeah,
yeah.
okay. Okay, then they'll show up and I can use them and just translate.
I think so.
It doesn't sound very confident.
I mean, right, the new roles are not tied to HR position.
Right, and they're
So
not tied to the title.
a faculty member can be a principal instructor, a supervisory instructor, and an auxiliary instructor. So knowing the role in the class doesn't tell you anything about their HR title. The only thing TA cannot be is a supervisor. That's
Okay.
really the only sort of thing that you know. If you know someone's a supervisory instructor, you know they can't be a TA. That's the only sort of tie. Right.
We'll have to work with
But
it.
those fields were notoriously inaccurate in the past, so it may have been fine within your department, but across campus, the same person is a faculty member, an academic staff, and a grad student in the same semester in different departments. So, or blank is really the common value. So have I overstayed my time, or is there any other questions? About Act 59, what the heck is that? Yeah?
It might be a little specific.
Oh boy,
Is
okay.
it ever appropriate to list someone who's not officially an instructor in any way, but is helping out in the class, to list them as an auxiliary instructor? Is that, because I have someone who's insisting I do this right now, and I'm saying that it's not.
Well, for one, is this person an employee? Do they have an instructional appointment?
No,
Then you won't be able to enter them.
yes.
Everybody that's entered needs to have an instructional HR appointment. So if that helps with the answer, then,
That helps, and then I have a follow-up.
so I think the actual, let's say you had said yes, this person is my department chair who's insisting on, you know, being listed on every single class or whatever. At some point, I think we are going to do some auditing, and we're going to say, hey, you're in the two different places at the same time as a principal instructor. That's going to get caught at some point. And really the principle of this is we are, the people that we're using this field to report who the instructor of a class is. Now, I agree that we could all have, you know, to make this a philosophy class and debate about, you know, Socratic method and teaching and what is teaching anyhow, and, you know, is blended learning teaching, and I don't know. But I think for the legislator downtown does not understand why we cannot give a list of the people teaching the class. It's very simple to them, and I sort of agree. you know, it should not include everybody and their brother, but I understand at some point there is a core of like, is this person or isn't it? And that's where I go back to the other answer I had, which is make a standard for your department and follow it. Okay, follow.
So in this case, the person has been told no, and can't be listed as auxiliary. So then the primary is saying, well, I'm listing them on my syllabus anyway. And so we're trying to explain that can't be either, but I guess I don't know exactly, is it really,
It may work in the short term to add the person on the syllabus when the syllabus is not digitally connected. So I'm going to go back to the digital systems. At some point, we may have a syllabus system that is automatically populated from SIS, right? And there could be, I'm just imagining a future world where there is a standard syllabus for Math 221. And we shouldn't need each instructor to, there's standard learning outcomes that are approved. There's, you know, a default textbook, or I don't know, I'm picking on math for no reason, but, you know, and then the only thing that gets put into this is sort of the optional stuff. So it's not going to work in that case. I think if this person wants, you know, to make it clean, this person should be given an appointment then. This, I mean, really your syllabus should match what's in SIS. That's my sword I'm falling on here. I don't have any authority to enforce it. Right, my time is up.
Thank you, Claire. I'm sure a lot of you still have individual questions about what pertains to your department. So you're always welcome to, again, reach out to me, reach out to your curricular services representatives, and we'll try to work with you to figure out the best answer possible to your questions. So next up, we have Erin Apple, who is going to give an update on Course Search and the Enroll app.
Hey folks, that's pretty washed out. We got a happy bucky over here. So it's here. The Course Search and Enroll app is live and available for use by everybody that's got a NetID on campus. After long last and lots of hours by a number of individuals and groups and partnerships and collaborators across campus, we've got a new place to display all of that lovely curricular information that you guys spend your days populating, soon to be in the class section builder. Just a real quick little graph here. Emails were sent out to students along with their enrollment appointments for fall, and apologies for the scratchy voice, I'm kind of losing it a little bit. Went out with the enrollment appointment emails, let's see, on 4/2, so April 2nd, and you'll see in this graph the pickup right after the first, the big hump there towards the end. We're seeing roughly 3,500 students a day using this application now since the announcement came out. And some user stats to date. We initially introduced this application to pilot groups of students during the SOAR student orientation sessions. So they've been using this app, the SOAR students have been using this app as the place to search for courses and enroll in courses at SOAR since spring SOAR, January SOAR 2017. So all summer, last summer, students had used this application and this past January SOAR as well. Currently, today, we've had 12,678 unique users in the application. I think we've reached roughly 7,000 students through SOAR, so just through word of mouth and the spreading of communications and so forth, we've reached almost 13,000 unique users to date. Over 1.1 million course or class validations that have run through the system. So that's students adding a course to their cart and immediately going and validating against this to see whether or not they meet the prerequisites to take the class. And then 81,000, almost 82,000 individual classes that students have enrolled in this application, using this application to date. So it's getting used and it's out on campus. Where can you find it? So, like I mentioned earlier, everybody with a NetID has access to this application. As staff, you won't have the full feature-rich, you can enroll in classes without an enrollment appointment, but you can still go out to this application and enroll in classes. And search for classes. And search for classes. You can also add classes to a cart, just like a student does. You can start building out a list of classes in the shopping cart kind of mentality to build a list. You can save classes for later. You can even go out and build schedules of the classes. What you won't see is you won't see any validation messaging coming back because you don't have an enrollment or a validation appointment. And you won't be able to enroll in the classes. But up until that point, you can do everything that a student can do in the application. It's out of my UW, the course search and enroll widget that you see up there on the screen. And this the search panel there on the right is the landing page with another little happy button. A couple of things I wanted to point out specific to the work that you do. So the enroll info and requisites are populated within the application as well. This is all of the course detail that you're seeing in this screenshot. If you look up in the course description for Math 221, you'll see a real brief string of text and then an enroll info following that that had taken the place of where you used to find prerequisite information, excuse me, within the class descriptions or course descriptions in SIS proper. And then below that, in prerequisites, you'll see the actual enforced requisites that are in place on that math class. There had been an effort on campus to formally display this, the enforced requisite information, but also give you the opportunity to populate some of those course descriptions with enrolled info that may or may not be enforced. So we're kind of accommodating both within this application to help fully inform our students at the point in time that they're searching for classes. If you expand that section information, you'll see that section, see sections button towards the top of the course details pane. You can expand individual sections within that are associated to the course and see some additional section information specific to that course. So in this instance or example of ComArts 101, it's an honors only section. So we'll display that section information and repeatedly display the prereqs as well. So giving the students a little more information with regards to enrollment information or section information specific and relevant to their accessibility for the class. As I mentioned, we've got a scheduler built into the application as well. Previously, we'd have to launch off to a third-party application known as Schedule Planner. What we did was put a lot of time and effort into building an inline scheduling component to this app so that students no longer have to jump up to 3 or 4 different areas or tools or systems in order to fully enroll in classes, right? So you've seen the course search and section information. We can add those items to a cart. Hop over here to the scheduler and build schedules. You can add breaks, you can add blocks, you can schedule around specific sections or just not pick a section and let the scheduler build a schedule for you. Feel free to, as I mentioned, you've got access to this. Go out to my UW and spend a little bit of time playing around just to see how students are using the application and finding the schedules to ultimately enroll in the classes that you guys are setting up. After scheduling, you can send the identified sections right back to your enrollment shopping cart and enroll right within this application. So past history, students would have to go to Course Guide to find courses. They'd have to go to Schedule Planner to build a schedule. They'd have to go to SIS, Student Center, to import the schedule from the schedule builder and then run validation and hope they meet the requisites for all the courses and then enroll in courses. So that's 3 different systems, the most simplistic way to enroll in classes. Now they can do it all in one place. But the thing about SIS is it already has a support infrastructure in place. So we had to find a way to provide that same or similar support infrastructure to allow students or users to kind of self-help, self-diagnose any problems and figure out what's going on. Why don't I need why don't I need a prerequisite? Or what's this message, this validation text that I'm getting back? What does it mean? How do I find courses? Where can I find an honors-only section? So what we've done in the registrar's office, and Katie's going to talk a little bit more about this in a second, but provide that support infrastructure. So right from the application, if you click the help button in the app, you'll land on this registrar's office. We call it the registrar's office Enrollment Help Desk. It's a landing spot to help self-diagnose issues, contact information, how to reach us in the RO, and then an escalation path where if you can't self-diagnose or find out what's going on or figure out what's going on, pick up the phone, give us a call, shoot us an email, and we'll help you figure out what's what. That's my quick and dirty to try and keep us on time and save my voice. Happy to answer any questions before I take it over to Katie. Jean?
So the shopping cart in Course Enroll is different from the wish list in SIS, is that right?
That is correct.
And so right now I can see if somebody's got something in their wish list by going to SIS. Am I able to see what a student has in their shopping cart in Course Enroll?
As an administrator?
Yes.
Okay, so the question is, as an administrator, if a student has items in their shopping cart in the Enroll app, can I see what they have in that Enroll app? We currently don't have that feature or functionality in place. If it's desired, if you'd like to have that ability, shoot me an email, and we'll see about getting the feature added.
I have a section level requisite
Yes.
class. Is that going to display anywhere?
It will display in that section information.
Why it's not quite in my opinion?
It will display in that section information, and when a student, immediately when a student adds a course to their cart and narrows it down to the section, we'll run validation in the background and provide them with that feedback right up front. If they meet validation, they get no message. They're free to carry on and do whatever. If they fail that validation, we're going to provide a big block of yellow text at the top of that course that indicates why they don't meet that validation, either at the course or the section, or section level requisites. Any other questions? Jean?
What is happening to Course Guide? Will that eventually go away, or?
We don't have a timeline or path for deprecation of Course Guide yet. The question was, will Course Guide eventually be going away? Ultimately, long term, yes. I don't have a timeline on when Course Guide will ultimately will go away.
Does the section data show instructor content like the course guide does?
Yep, so the question is, let's go back here.
Yeah.
So the section information, the question is, does this show instructor provided content? The answer is yes. It will display it at both, and I should have picked an example that has both instructor provided content and textbook information. Had a little short timeline here, so we couldn't get all of the features in, but yes, we'll display a link that surfaces that instructor provided content and textbook information.
Will degree plans be built into this tool?
Will degree plans be built into this tool? There's a big demand for degree plans, and they're highly used across campus, and we know this. This is an iterative product, and we focused on the course search, the enrollment aspect piece of it first, and the schedule builder. We are in the process of prioritizing next steps, and I'll tell you that degree plan is right up at the top. Welcome. All right, to keep on schedule, I'm going to kick it over to Katie. Or, do you want to do this?
I guess it'll be more formal. Introducing Katie Parr, our newest member of the RO staff, to talk a little bit more about that enrollment help desk.
Like Angie said, I'm the newest member of the student services staff, and one of our main functions is enrollment related. So many thanks to Erin for setting me up with the help desk. I have made a newbie error, and I'm going to dare to go to a live website, which requires coordination that I may have. Okay. What do I do? Thank you. I also have no pictures of my cat. So really with this landing page that we're calling the Enrollment Help Desk, we've really tried to re-envision what help would look like, and as opposed, we feel the Course Search and Enroll app is, students are it's intuitive and students are having a good experience navigating through it. And so what we wanted to provide was some extra information and explanation and support where if you've already used the tool and you've performed the search, so you may not need to know how to search, although we have that too, but you tried to search and you didn't get the results that you were looking for, how do you act? What do you do next? Who do you contact? So that's what this landing page of what we're calling the Enrollment Help Desk is really about. Meg Hamill is the communications specialist in the Office of the Registrar, and she has been working at a rapid and thorough pace to get lots of support materials up and related to the Course Search and Enroll app, and they're all linked from this Enrollment Help Desk. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and show you how she's organized it. And so the first thing would be just some, I'll be using screenshots. The first thing would be how to contact. If you read no further on this page, when you're looking for help, you know who you could contact to get help, maybe to have your question answered, or at the very least to be referred to someone who would be able to help. And then the blue links at the top are the three main sections that the rest of the content is organized through. So if you, like I mentioned before, you've searched for something but you're not getting results that you thought you would get, we have some ideas for how you might clear your filters, reset your search, make sure the right boxes of open, closed, and waitlisted are checked. I think this will be a helpful tool for the people in this room too, and advisors that might be supporting people and students as they're trying to find courses that they think are offered but couldn't find the way they search for them. Maybe you would use subject listing if you're specifically looking for courses in a department offered by their numerical order, for example. We also know that with any system or tool, it can time out. So there's a box on the right that what if things are hanging or freezing or just not progressing? There's some ideas of what you might do there too. The second section, we might need to jump the top at it here, is what happens if if I got an error message. And the error messages are really pretty helpful. They will say things like it is too late to drop this course, contact your academic dean. So they're helpful error messages, but sometimes students want a little more. So what we've done is try to provide some context of why you might be getting that message. And then I'll scroll down a little bit in a minute, and then so the context behind it, and also what should you as the student do or what could you do. So again, helping them to take some action. The requisite example is the longest because requisites are a complicated experience and situation, but we might explain why you might think you have permission to take the course, but you're missing something, and then what could you do or what should you do. A more kind of straightforward example or succinct would be, I have a hold on my record, what is a hold, what does that mean, and then how can I act to take care of that hold. So we have a handful of common examples, and we're going to be monitoring throughout this heavier volume of peak enrollment to see really what are the most common error messages and make sure we update this information and keep it relevant for students. And then the last section is which enrollment tool should I use? So this, I think, actually may be more beneficial for staff and faculty and advisors than students who are familiar that there are these three different systems out there, and what actions related to enrollment can you perform in which section. So someone already asked about Course Guide, and there are a couple things in Course Guide now that a student could do that they can't do in Class Search and Enroll or the Student Center. Meg is always taking a student-centered approach to this, and so she added visual examples of what each one looks like. Sometimes we know what we're using based on what it looks like, but we don't know what it's called. So I guess the main point here is many of the post-enrollment things a student might do or edits, like requesting pass-fail permission, withdrawing, changing credits after certain deadlines, will still be done in the Student Center right now. But the more intuitive Class Search and Enroll app, kind of better enrollment experience is still preferred or is newly preferred for starting out. The last part of this page is, sorry if I make you I mentioned it's important. It still is important. Some people will want to know how to use the system. So she has a lot of how-to documents linked at the top right. How to enroll on a wait list, how to enroll off of a wait list once you've been given permission to enroll. And a lot of this is how to with like a quick summary. Like if all I want to know is how to mechanically do it, it's right there. But if I want to read a little more and understand policy, related policy behind it, that's there too. And an example of this I'm going to show you real quickly would be with the waitlist page. Some things about waitlists are mechanically how do I do it, and other things about waitlists are a little more, this is displaying real well, a little more policy related, like how many waitlists can I be on at a time. So I think we're hoping that that will serve many purposes for the students. So that's an overview of the help desk page. Are there any questions about that? Suggestions? Concerns? Yes?
Who would you like us to contact if you're in the future?
You can contact me, Katie Potter. We have two Katies in the office, a KDG and a KDT. And maybe I'll put my name on this before we send it out, if you have feedback. And then we also have, please also contact if you're working with students and you experience an error with the tool. We have an internal escalation that we can send things through if something truly isn't working and it's not just like a permission-based thing.
Screenshots are always good.
Screenshots are good. Yeah, if you can send us a screenshot and a student ID number for a good example. Okay. The last thing I'm going to talk about very quickly is back to the PowerPoint. Sorry about that. And I intended to ask for a friendly nudge. A project that I'm working on right now is to identify and separate out who enrollment representatives might be versus who a curricular representative might be. And I know that in many cases that's the same person for many subject listings, but based on my new role, which is kind of outreach and training and support related, in parallel with Angie's role, it's becoming increasingly more beneficial for us to distinguish between those two types of people. Enrollment reps are a little harder to identify than a curricular representative. And for example, the chemistry department has 18 people who can enter course permissions. And so if we're thinking about tailored training or outreach, it's helpful for us to narrow that down a little bit. And so we've asked the curricular representatives, the primary curricular representative, for each subject listing to fill out a survey that I sent out last week to help us identify who a primary enrollment representative might be. As you can imagine, when we're fielding enrollment questions, appropriate referrals to departments about course access come into play on a daily basis. So this will be really helpful for that and also helpful for our outreach and training efforts. So it was intended to be a nudge to please take this survey, but 70% of you have already done it. So thank you very much. No nudge needed. And for the rest, for the 30% that haven't, the sooner you can provide that information to us, the more quickly we can be making appropriate referrals. Yes.
I never saw it.
Are you a primary curricular rep?
Yes.
Okay, well I will double check that list. Which department, which subject?
Gender and women's studies.
Gender and women's studies. I will see who I send that to and redirect. Are you the one and only?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I will double check for you.
True that.
Is it possible just to email you some information? Because I filled out a survey, but it didn't give me, I get one thing and it just, oh, thank you for your response and done. And I'm like, because I manage enrollment, but there's another person who does the course permissions.
Okay, yes.
So it didn't even ask about that.
Yes, absolutely. You can just reply to the email instead, and I can collect the information in any way that you are willing to give it to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right, I'll make sure to get Katie's email address added to the slide presentation too before we send it out. So next up is Joe Nelson, who is going to talk about some curricular data.
Always an exciting topic. So I'm here to remind everyone of a couple of curricular data resources that you have, both through the Office of the Registrar and through other sources on campus. So I have a computer as well. But the two I'm going to cover today are the Curricular Audit Tools. Curricular Audit Tools is a Tableau visualization which exists on UW-Madison's Tableau server, dataviz.wisc.edu, in response to a query library query that was called Timetable, I believe. So this is a replacement for that. It's been up for 10 months or so. So this, most of you have probably seen this and probably have received an email, but I'll go through that in just a second. And then a quick reminder about Data Center as well. I won't do any searches in Data Center, but we'll pull it up. So first we'll look at the Curricular Audit Tools. So let them navigate to dataviz.wisc.edu. Much quicker than this. So anyone who has any, I shouldn't say anyone who has an entity, but any employee who is not a student employee has access to the Tableau server. Yeah, I'm going to try it. You'll see the UW-Madison institutional data box here. You'll have to click on that.
Seeing other things that they want.
Yes, you will not see staging, you will not see templates, you will only see UW-Madison. And then any visualizations that are available to you will be in this page here. You will also not see some of these things in here. But I can search for Curricular, and it pops up. So we'll click on View. Again, we get to the home page here. And you will be greeted with this page that tells you what's inside of the particular workbook. Most workbooks on the Tableau server have a format like this. Some do not if they're a single page or if they are particularly old. So if you click on any of the links under what's inside, it will take you to that specific worksheet. And you'll have to make some selections on the left side here. We will pick the current term, select a subject, the first one, and then something will pop up. So some of these things will be more helpful to you, some will be less helpful. This particular worksheet is looking at scheduled classes by day and room. And you can get more specific. You want to select a room if you know what room you're looking for. Let's say 2170. Have no idea where that room is. That's fine. And then select an instructor, and that'll list all the instructors who are teaching a course in accounting information systems on Monday in Curricular Hall 2170. So the rest of this information on the top. None of the filters carry over from tab to tab, so you'll have to make your selection again. And they're different enough as to where they shouldn't carry over anyway. So let's take a quick reminder about Curricular Audit Tools. While you're in dataviz.wisc.edu, feel free to check out the rest of the visualizations in there. There's some interesting information with student enrollments, stuff about libraries, sponsored programs, etc. If it's in there, you have access to it. No need to feel bad about looking at it. And then Data Center. mainly a list generation tool, so you'll put some criteria in here. This is first on the students tab, so there's two tabs, students and courses. You'll have to put some criteria in here, such as career or an academic program, and then it will generate a list of the students that meet the criteria that you set. Courses is very, well, it's a similar looking, I guess it's not that similar looking, but it's a similar type of search. You have to put criteria in, and then it will give you a list of courses that fit the criteria. So depending on what you're looking for, look at one or the other. I'm not going to do a search because it will probably time out based on what I put in there. So let me just figure out. Okay. So there are a couple other data resources. So I mentioned dataviz.wis.edu. Angie will send this out, so you'll be able to click on these links. Those have all the Tableau data visualizations in there. There's another website, data.wis.edu. Some of you probably went to the 8th Tableau session that was offered by the Office of Data Management and Analytics Services last week and the week before, I believe. Data.wis.edu is those folks' website. There's a resources tab that has a recording of that Meet Tableau session, which explains how to use UW-Madison's institutional Tableau visualizations, as well as some other resources in there too. There's another thing that's coming. They're called institutional data exporters. I can't really give you a ton of information on them because they're all going to be very different, but basically they are a replacement for a lot of the query library queries that you may be using to get data right now. So instead you'll go to an institutional data exporter, you'll make some selections, and then you'll click a button that allows you to export data. And they'll link together in some way, shape, or form. Those will also be on dataviz.wis.edu at some point. And more information will be coming from the Office of Data Management and Analytics Services on that particular topic. So that is all I have. Does anyone have any questions for me? Yes?
Those audit tools are awesome.
Okay. I hope to put up more helpful things in the future. Okay.
All right, we hope we're ending on some even more helpful tools for you. So 25 Live Advanced Search. So this has been turned on for you. So this basically will just allow you to do some more complex room searches. So it's a third tab in Advanced Location Search. I did use some screenshots here. I wasn't going to dare to try to navigate through the software live. But it allows you to write and save searches to do things like find all the rooms in humanities with greater than 40 seats in the rooms that have both a document camera and tables in them. So it just allows you to add more layers to your search and to save those searches. Also, we have some additional resources for you around 25 Live. So the knowledge base has been updated for Lumen to include the 25 Live software as well. So that will include a few links to the 25 Live topic page, and particularly the advanced search page. So if you're curious to have what the walkthrough is like for it, there's additional information available on our KB site. And if you have any questions, Jennifer Donahoe in our office would be happy to answer them around 25 Live. She's our specialist. She knows the software quite well. So that's all we have for you today. So I will be sending out the link to this. Well, we'll send out the PDF of this PowerPoint with the live links. We'll also send out the video recording, providing the video was successful today, and a survey for your feedback. So definitely appreciate everybody coming. Once again, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and feel free to grab snacks on your way out if you need one. Otherwise, have a great day. Thank you so much for your time.